Hello, and welcome to this two-part series of installing the OpenShift container platform using a disconnected registry. In this part, we're actually going to build the registry. In part two, we will deploy OpenShift using IPI and accessing the registry to actually deploy OpenShift. So let's get started here. The area that we're going to build the registry in is on Azure. And the first thing we need to do is actually build a VM to actually hold the registry. I may refer to it as a bastion host. Um, but the it's not an Azure Bastion, so it's just a VM. So let's go ahead and add that. Well, let me back up for a second. So let me show you the environment. I just have one resource group right now. That's the one we're in, Red Hat OCP 001. There's one domain associated to it, so we're going to use this domain to actually install OpenShift as its base domain. And I'm just going to go ahead and put the VM slash Bastion host in this resource group. So let's say add just going to grab Ubuntu. You can have any flavor of Linux here. Might be preferred to run Red Hat or CentOS. And we'll call it registry as its name. I don't need to change any of this. One VCP is fine. And then we'll change it to my name here for SSH into for remote access. And I'll use an existing public key, which I have off screen. Just give me a second, paste that in. And this, I don't need premiums. Let's go with standard, blah, 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 networking. Okay, so under networking, when you install OpenShift, especially by default using IPI, it's going to come up on the 10.0.0.0/16 subnet. I don't want to have this host on the same one because then I could get confused if I did any logging. So I'm just going to create a new subnet that I want to put these in. So we'll say 10.242.0.0/24, and we'll use the whole thing. Say localhost, and we'll put this in 10.242.0.0/24. Okay. Network security group, basic is fine. Inbound ports allows SSH, yep, because I need to get to it. I don't need anything else. All right, so that looks good. Hit create. This will take a few minutes to spin up the VM. And once it's ready, we'll SSH to it and we'll continue the installation from there. So I'll be right back. Okay, so our machine's done, and we went ahead and jumped over into the details for it, and we grab our IP address here, copy that, and we'll just SSH into the registry. Great. I went ahead and put up some tabs here. We'll get to those because there's some things we need to install first. The first thing we need to do is we need to log into our subscription. So we'll do that. And go to Cluster Manager, Create Cluster, OpenShift, Azure. And it doesn't really matter which one we go with here. We're just going to grab the tools. So I'm saying UPI. The installer runs on Mac or Linux. We'll say Linux. And I will copy that link down, wget that. And then we need to copy our pool secret. Okay. And our command line interface, Linux. Copy that down. Okay, so now we should have everything in our home directory. We do. Now let's grab JQ binary. Depending on your distribution, you might be able to do an app install, or you could do a yum install. I'm just going to grab the binary here. Copy link, wget there, and let's chmod that to executable and move it to user local bin as JQ. Great, and we'll extract these, the installer and the client. Into user local bin. installer as well. Okay, great. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of these. Clear. And let's check our versions. OpenShift install version 461. OC version 461 as well. kubectl version 119. Great. Okay, so we've got all the tools we need there. We will need Podman here, so let's go ahead and do the install of Podman. And you can just scroll down and find your distro. Where's Ubuntu? There it is. And grab that. Copy. Paste. And this will take a minute to, it's going to upgrade the operating system as well, so I'll be right back. Okay, all the updates are done, and then we'll just install Podman. Okay, so Podman's installed. We will need the Apache tools, or if you're on CentOS or Red Hat, it'll be the HTTPD tools because we're going to create an HT password. So let's go ahead and pull those down. Okay, great. So let's go back to our resource group, and we just have our domain and our network and our VM in here. Okay, so we've got all the tools downloaded. The only thing we're going to need as part of our install additional is going to be the, we will need a CA and trusted certificate. The certificate will be stored in the registry, and of course the CA will load into our install config so that we'll trust the installation. We will use HTTPS bound to port 5000, which is the registry port. So keep that in mind. So I do have a couple of certs. We'll transfer those after I create the directories. The first group of directories we need to create would be for the registry. So let's do that. We're just doing make directory, opt registry, and then 3 subs, auth, certs, and data. This also makes it easy to transport by doing it this way. So when we fire up Podman, Podman will just create volume mounts to these subdirectories. So if you wanted to transfer it, build it offline, like build it on your Mac or build it on a local machine, you can go ahead and do that and just zip up this directory when you're done, and then transfer it to the location for your installation. Okay, so let's create those. And now we'll go into opt registry certs, and I'll copy in the CA, and I'll copy in the, or rather I'll copy in my certs right here. So I have those stored offline. Let me go ahead and grab those. Oops, gotta do that as sudo. Okay, I'm actually going to shorten these names too. Let's see, move registry cert to registry cert. All right, whoops. All right, so this cert key, we need to make sure that it has the right permissions. Should be 400 or at least 600. There we go. Okay, now my CA cert We will move it to user. This is Ubuntu, so user share certificates, and then run a reconfigure on it so that we can enable it. And yes, and I'm going to hit the spacebar, enable that cert, and it'll add it to the bundle. There we go. One cert added. Okay, so now this host trusts the CA. We'll load it in our install config as well, and then we'll load when we load the Podman. It'll connect to those registry certs. These two. Okay. Now I've also got every one of the steps that I'm doing in a script. So I will also link that script in the description below. So if you need to go and build your own registry, obviously I want to make it as easy as possible. So I'll provide the links and I'll provide the script for you to follow along. Okay, now if you're running a system that has a firewall, you want to make sure that port 5000, and in this case also 22 since I'm SSH intoing it, is enabled. So if we look at sudo UFW for Ubuntu status. I don't think by default it has it. Nope, it's inactive, but we can go ahead and turn it on. Allow 22 TCP, sudo UFW allow 5000 TCP, sudo UFW enable. Yes, clear, sudo UFW status. There we go. So we got our ports enabled now. Okay, so we got all the tools. We've got our certs loaded. We've got our firewall loaded. Directories configured. Next thing we have to do is create our password that we'll use to log into the registry. And we'll put that under auth. And it's just HT password. And then B, C. And then HT password. I'm in the directory, so opt registry auth, so I don't need to put it in another directory. Password. And then my username. And password, yeah, okay. Oh, forgot sudo. There we go. Okay, so we got that. And I think we're good to go. So we got all the tools, we got Podman, we got our firewall enabled, we've got our certs, we got our authentication file. Yep, so the next thing we need to do is actually just start our container. In this case, it's going to be a Docker registry container. So it's sudo podman run. It's going to be disconnected, and which means it'll throw it in the background. It'll still be running as a container. We'll be able to take a look at it, but we'll also be able to start and stop it just by using POC registry as a name. If you can change this to any name you want. We're going to enable the container port 5000 to open up the host port 5000. Here's our volume mount points, op registry data. This is where the registry will be stored. Our authentication file, the HT password file is stored there, and our certs are stored here. All right. We want to make sure that our certs are labeled here. This is an environment variable based off of this mount point. So it's /certs, and then of course I called it registry cert and registry key. So that all looks right. We'll go ahead and get that fired up. It'll take just a couple of seconds to pull that container down. Look at that, happened already. And we could do ps or sudo podman ps, and you'll see the container running. There we go, and our port mapping is correct. Okay, so now that's ready, and we have our container. The only thing left is we need to check it and make sure that it's actually connecting. So we'll do curl u name password. This should fail. Yep, because it cannot resolve the host name, because I did forget that we need to make that possible for this specific curl. Plus, we need to make sure that the host name is going to match anyway. So let's update the host name. When I create my OCP cluster, I'm going to give it the cluster name private, and the name is shifting red, domain name. So the fully qualified domain name is registry private, also used as a cluster name, shifting red. Now, okay, so that worked, and we can look at the catalog there, and we see that we have one repository running, and it's completely empty. Now let's go ahead and mirror in the data. So we'll export our build number right here, and we're going to be fetching it from the clients. I will also, so this is going to grab the latest release, and if you want to see that real quick, let me copy that URL. I'll put this in here, and here's all the release information. So you can see it's 461 is the current release. So we're going to grab that, and essentially it's just going to export as 461. But if I didn't know that it was 461, then it would just pull whatever the latest is. So if we do echo build number, we'll see it's 461. Okay. And then, so we have some environment variables to set. We're going to set the registry home directory, our release, the registry name. We also put this in the host file. Again, the host name is registry. The cluster is going to be private, and the domain is shifting red. So the fully qualified domain name is registry.private.shiftingred. We're exposing port 5000 here. This is the release, the repo name that we'll create, upstream repo, and our secret, which we have not created yet, but we'll go ahead and do that next. All right, so let's encode our credentials. So our credentials were actually stored in the HE password, but we need to be able to pass that in with a registry. So we'll just export, let's see, reg secret. We'll use this as another string here, and then echo name, username, password, and we'll encode that base 64 like that. Yep. What did I do wrong here? Ah, I don't know why I put that in there. There we go. Okay. Now in our home directory, let's go back to that. We have the original pool secret. And we're going to have to use both. So we're going to create a second JSON file that will take this one. This one will be used to connect to Red Hat so we can pull down the packages. And then we'll need to also have another pull secret, the one we just created, installed into that pull secret as well, or appended to the pull secret, so that we can authenticate into our registry to transfer the data. So we're going to be mirroring it. We need to be able to log into both sides. We need to log into Red Hat. We need to log into the local registry here, which is this string. So we're going to take our authentication credentials here, and we're going to append them into the pull secret, this pull secret, and then create pull secret JSON2, or 2 JSON. And right there it is. All right, so this one is already in the environment variable, so we're good to go there. And now we really just have our mirroring string to, which is an OC command right here. So we're running OC to mirror into the local registry, the Quay registry, into our local registry. And this will take quite a bit of time. It's got like 200 packages or 120, sorry, 120 images it needs to download into the repo. And then once that's done, we'll be ready to move on to testing it, and then phase two. Okay, so the mirroring is complete now. And what we want to do is we want to grab this information right here and save it. So we'll add this to our install config file so that when the installation looks for this location, we'll present this. When it looks for this location, we'll present that. So make sure you copy this. Again, this goes in the install config file. So I'll copy that off screen. And then we're also provided with the YAML so that we can do our updates. So let's go ahead and grab that and paste that off screen as well. Yeah, so definitely store this. Okay, so our registry is up and running, and now we can check our curl command again. Curl. And we'll jump into the registry. Oops. Shifting red. 5000. V2 catalog. And we should get our OpenShift repository. Yep, there. Okay, great. So now we actually have a registry that's presenting um, OpenShift for installation. We got our config files. We've got the registry up and running. We can authenticate into it. We just saw that. Our firewall port's open. We're ready to go. So that's it. We're going to wrap up this one. It was pretty quick. And then we'll jump into part two, which is installing OpenShift, connecting to this registry. So I'll see you in part two.